The story of Jesus in John 5 has it, and as elsewhere as well, that his main opposition comes from, if you like, his own religion, the people that he's come to help and who question whether he's a part of them or not. You see, it's not the world that is the main opposition to your individual unusual views. It's the people who claim you should be part of their religion. Especially if you're critical of them in some sense. You know, you're holding a view that is not correct in their view. And you're therefore seen as an enemy, you see. Hence, one denomination can be fiercely against another, treating each other as a sect or, some sort of degeneration of the truth as they see it. The world doesn't care if you're away with the fairies. You're no threat. It just ignores you. You know, it's a bit like Pilate washing his hands. I can't see anything wrong with this chap, and they all want to kill him. Well, I can't stop them, so I think I'll wash my hands of the whole business. Verse 29, we have it that they shall come forth, they that have done good, unto the resurrection of life, and they that have done evil unto the resurrection of damnation. And this sounds, not exactly loving, but remember, I say remember, I am remembering that Jesus is concerned that if you would enter into life, keep the commandments. In other words, you're not alive spiritually yet, which is a current damnation, not that you're damned forever. My view is God has no failures in the end. Just some processes are longer than others. And if you don't believe, well, you still don't believe. Not yet, anyway. But of course the word damnation has taken on the equivalent view has taken on a sort of hopeless situation in a conception of you've got one life and you either make it or you don't. In that time, you either get to heaven or you go to hell. It's not saying here you go to hell. You could be experiencing hell here or heaven. I can be in the kingdom of heaven and here. I can be in hell and here, suffering greatly. And of course, if he was saying that it was that, then it would be contrary to the notion of the Hebrew religion, which was the dead know nothing, not that they're suffering in hell. Well, the meaning of words and values and so on change through time. They're not fixed. And when we look at, in this case, a scripture, a reading from, or ideas from a different age, a different time, they seem patently unacceptable to us because we're attributing the meaning to the words that they now have for us. So, for instance, the obvious one was sin, which in the modern context means some religious view of depravity. Well, even depravity is a word that's changed in meaning. Depravity simply meant deprived of the presence of God. But it's come to mean, because of Christian religion, to be up to your eyes in, I don't know, lust and debauchery or something. Utter wickedness. It didn't mean that at all. It meant deprived of the presence of God, which was a desperate situation, yes. But not what I would hold you responsible for. You're a child. I mean, goodness. We don't expect adult values from a child. Not yet. And so with the word sin, I mean, medieval times, sin simply meant, in archery, it was you'd missed by a certain measure, you know, a hand's width or something, the target, and he calls out sin and what the degree of error is. And of course, you're not willfully trying to miss the target, which of course sin is considered to be a very willful thing now, isn't it? And you're to be condemned for it. It's just taken on this, what we might feel is an appalling religious view. Whereas error is just error. I mean, the kids are making mistakes all the time, but we don't want to hold them too responsible for it because they don't understand yet. They're children. It's just that they make mistakes. Sin. In the medieval sense, not in the 21st century sense, which has been painted by, I don't know, another 1,000 years of religion. Well, of course, when you keep a story for a few thousand years, we can easily lose the context and the meaning of all of it. And the whole thing seems unacceptable, ridiculous, just not reasonable from 10,000 years time from its conception. It becomes just a fairy story. But at heart, the fairy story may have, not necessarily, but may have something very valuable and fundamental to living and be a great blessing to us. It may present as Monty Python, but of course Monty Python approach has actually a very serious undercurrent, suggesting to us, well, in the case of Monty Python, the absurdity of certain things in our society, suggesting then a reality rather more important than the appearance of things. We're saying something parallel to Gnostic, aren't we? There's hidden meaning in our humour and our stories and our entertainment. It was ever so, wasn't it? You know, the medieval, was it called madrigal, acting in the street of some religious story, was to entertain people at the fair, but not really. It was to transmit to the ordinary folk some of the wisdom of the ages that's enshrined in its traditions. Something that's more durable than the current regime, the current political acceptability. the current ruler, but in a form that, well, even he might not really realise is real, and be oblivious to the impact of such, possibly quite contrary to his present rule. So too the court jester is an extraordinary innovation in the court that can in some sense rescue the sanity of the place. In some semi-acceptable or way in which those that would resist don't. They're oblivious to it or tolerant of it in some way. It's a light relief, in fact, from the stress of living. So too our fairy stories and our legends. You know, it might be something like King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, El Cid of medieval Spain, or Jesus of a Christmas Jerusalem, or Abraham migrating from Persia or fleeing from Persia in some ancient presented time. In short, our imaginations are everything to our sanity. Thank you, Dad.